You miss more in 5 minutes of silence than in 5 hours of conversation. Because people don't reveal themselves when they speak. They reveal themselves when they think no one's watching. In the way their fingers tap when nervous, in the way they pause before saying, "I'm fine," in the way their eyes shift when the truth feels dangerous. Most people listen to words. A few people watch for signals. And those people, they have the real power. Because once you know how to observe, you can read anyone, like a book. The truth is this: most people don't think. They project. They don't say what they mean. They say what they want you to hear. But the body? The body doesn't lie. The nervous smile, the forced laugh, the foot that points to the exit, while they say, "I'm happy to be here." All signals, all data, all truth, but you'll miss all of it if you're focused on your own ego. Most people don't see others clearly because they're too busy trying to be seen themselves, trying to impress, trying to be liked, trying to control the image. But when you let go of that, when you stop performing, you start to notice. And what you'll notice is that people reveal themselves all the time. Their insecurities, their confidence, their hidden intentions, they leak out in how they breathe, in what they avoid, and how they respond to silence. Reading people is not about being manipulative. It's about being awake. When most are reactive, you're reflective. When most assume, you investigate. When most talk, you listen to what they didn't say. Stoic philosophers understood this. Marcus Aurelius observed people without judgment. He wrote, "You always own the option of having no opinion." Why? Because having no opinion lets you see more. It creates mental stillness, space between their signal and your reaction. And in that space, you see them clearly. Seneca said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And this applies to people too. Most of the time, we project onto others what we think they are. We invent motives, we assume intentions, but the philosopher doesn't rush. He watches. He lets the person reveal themselves through behavior, not assumptions. You don't need superpowers to read someone. You need silence, stillness, and patience. Watch how they enter a room, where their eyes go first, who they avoid, how they sit when no one's looking, how fast they respond, and whether their words match their posture. This is not about cold calculation. It's about presence. The deeper your awareness, the clearer their patterns become. You'll start to notice who's lying to themselves, who's pretending to be confident, who's looking to dominate, who's begging to be accepted without saying a word. Most people, they wait for their turn to speak. You'll be decoding their story before they finish the sentence, because now you're not listening to words. You're watching the person behind them. Words can lie, but the body rarely does. Because while you can rehearse what to say, you can't rehearse instinct. And under stress, truth leaks out through small, involuntary behaviors. If you want to read someone like a book, start with these 5 signals. First, eye contact patterns. They say eyes are the window to the soul, but more importantly, they're the mirror of emotional control. Watch how someone looks at you. Too much eye contact? They might be overcompensating, trying to assert dominance, or hide discomfort through forced confidence. Too little? Could be guilt, could be fear, could be submission. But don't just look for intensity, look for timing. Do they break contact after certain questions? Do their pupils dilate when certain topics come up? That's not just biology, that's emotional resonance. The eyes react faster than the mind can edit. Dusra. Microexpressions. You don't need to see a full emotional outburst. to know how someone feels. Their real emotion flashes across their face for a split second before they correct it. These are called microexpressions. A twitch in the brow, a tightening around the mouth, a flash of contempt or sadness before the polite smile returns. Trained interrogators watch for these. So do elite negotiators. So do people who aren't easily fooled. Because that 1 second between emotion and control, that's where the truth lives. Mundra. Speech rhythm and pauses. What someone says is one thing, but how they say it, that's where the signals hide. Does their voice speed up when the topic gets uncomfortable? Do they start using filler words like, honestly, right before making a claim? Do they pause after you ask something direct? Hesitation isn't always guilt. Sometimes it's calculation. Sometimes it's fear of being exposed. Silence, when someone is normally quick, is data, and too much smoothness can be rehearsed. Real people stumble. Perfect delivery often hides a mask. Nonverbal. Foot direction and body posture. Most people train their faces. Some even train their tone. But very few ever think about their feet. That's why you should. Watch where their feet point when they're talking to someone. Feet facing away from the person means they want out of the conversation. It's a subconscious signal. I'm physically here, but mentally leaving. Also, notice their posture. Are they leaning forward in real interest, or just angling their shoulders out of politeness while their lower body is pulling away? The truth is in the disconnect. Nonverbal. Fidgeting and pacifying behaviors. People touch their face, neck, or hair. When they're anxious, they bounce their legs, rub their palms, adjust their collar. These are called pacifying behaviors, the body's attempt to release tension without being obvious if someone suddenly starts fidgeting. When a topic shifts, pay attention. If they stop blinking, start tapping, or look for something to hold, you've hit a nerve, and that's not always a sign of guilt. Sometimes it's a signal that you're getting too close to something they'd rather keep buried. These signals are subtle, but powerful. You won't see them if you're distracted or if you're trying to impress, but if you slow down, observe, and let the moment breathe, they'll tell you everything you need to know. The key isn't to judge, it's to see. Don't label people instantly. Watch for patterns. See which signals repeat. And over time, you won't need to ask people who they are. They'll show you in every glance, pause, shift, and breath. Words are slippery. People rarely say what they mean, and often say what they think you want to hear. But underneath every sentence is a hidden motive, a pressure, a fear, a need. And if you know what to look for, you can hear what was never said aloud. Some people lie directly, but most distort by omission, deflection, and overcompensation. They hide truth, not by denying it, but by burying it in noise. Let's break down the patterns. First, over-explaining and over-justifying. When someone's telling the truth, they often speak plainly. But when someone is trying to convince you, not just inform you, they add layers, unnecessary details, excessive logic, repetitions like, honestly, to tell you the truth, believe me. Paul Ekman, one of the world's leading deception experts, calls this dupe and delight, the slight emotional high people feel when they think they're getting away with something, and it leaks into their words. Watch for stories that try too hard to sound clean. Truth tends to be messy. It doesn't always arrive wrapped in perfect structure, but lies often do, because they were rehearsed. Dusra. avoiding direct answers. Ask a direct question. If the response begins with anything other than the answer, pay attention. Example, did you talk to him? Well, what you have to understand is that's not a yes or no. That's a detour, redirecting, buying time, resetting your expectation. Sometimes people don't lie. They just don't land on the answer. They dance around it, deflect, diffuse. The philosopher listens not to what's said, but to what's missing. Mundram. Vagueness when specificity is expected. When someone has nothing to hide, they tend to be clear. When someone is protecting something, they go vague. They say, "We're just talking. We had a misunderstanding. It wasn't a big deal." But when you press, what exactly was said? What did you feel? What happened next? They drift, stall, or become defensive. Vagueness is often a mask for discomfort, and if it's consistent, it's a red flag. Nonverbal. Contradictions between language and behavior. They say, "I'm fine," but their tone is flat. Their face is tense. Their body leans away. That's a contradiction. Psychologists call it leakage. When the conscious message doesn't match, the subconscious signal. Don't just listen to what someone says. Watch how they say it. Tone, timing, emotion. If they say they're confident, but can't hold eye contact, if they say they're interested, but keep checking the clock, then their words are just camouflage. Nonverbal. Reversals and sudden shifts. Someone is calm, then suddenly defensive. They're open, then abruptly shut down. These are emotional pivots, signals that a nerve was hit, that the conversation left the safe zone. When someone's tone, posture, or rhythm shifts without logical reason, they're not reacting to the conversation. They're reacting to something inside them. And that's the signal you were waiting for. Reading people through speech is not about catching lies. It's about recognizing tension between appearance and intention. Marcus Aurelius said, "Never assume. Ask what they mean, then watch what they do." He wasn't being paranoid. He was being precise. The more clearly you listen, the more patterns emerge. And over time, you'll stop reacting to words and start hearing the person underneath them. People aren't confusing. They're just offended. Because underneath every behavior is a motive. And underneath every motive is a wound. We like to think people lie to others, but most lies are to themselves. They wear masks, not to deceive you, but to survive. And once you understand why they wear them, you can read them without judgment. Let's start with attachment. How someone connects to others often reveals their emotional blueprint. People with anxious attachment tend to overshare, over-apologize, and seek constant reassurance. They want closeness, but fear abandonment, so they hide that fear. Behind people-pleasing, others with avoidant attachment withdraw. They minimize, they intellectualize feelings. Instead of expressing them, they may act cool or independent, but it's often a defense against vulnerability. Understanding this changes everything. You stop asking, "Why are they acting weird?" and start seeing they're protecting something. Usually a sense of worth that feels unstable. Now let's talk about projection. Carl Jung said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to a better understanding of ourselves, because we often accuse others of the very things we repress in ourselves." The dishonest man sees lies everywhere. The insecure woman judges others' confidence as arrogance. Why? Because the mind protects the ego by outsourcing its shame. That's projection. And when you observe someone who constantly blames, you're not seeing their inside, you're seeing their shadow. Jung believed we all carry a dark, unacknowledged part of ourselves. The shadow. We deny it, suppress it, hide it, but it leaks out through judgment, sarcasm, defensiveness. So when someone gets strangely angry about something small, you've just met their shadow when they accuse others of what they never confront in themselves. That's not analysis, that's displacement. Another key, ego defense mechanisms. Freud identified several ways the ego avoids discomfort. One of them is rationalization. A person fails and instantly builds a story about how they didn't want it anyway. That's not reflection, that's protection. Or denial. The signs are clear, but the person refuses to see them. Why? Because admitting the truth would break the identity they've built, and ego protects itself. At all costs, understanding this helps you read people with precision. When someone responds to feedback with a long excuse, you're not just hearing resistance, you're hearing defense. When someone attacks you for being too honest, you're not seeing aggression, you're seeing fragility. And once you understand what they're defending, you understand them, because behavior is just armor. Underneath it is someone scared, scarred, or uncertain. Not everyone is hiding something malicious. Many are hiding something unhealed. But that doesn't mean you excuse everything. It means you see clearly. That person isn't intimidating. They're insecure. That person isn't arrogant. They're performing. That person isn't cold. They've just forgotten how to be warm. Philosophy and psychology agree. Don't take behavior personally, take it seriously. And when you observe without judgment, you gain the ultimate power, not to control others, but to understand them. To read someone like a book isn't to judge them, it's to understand the language. They don't know they're speaking. Every gesture, every hesitation, every contradiction tells a story, not of who they pretend to be, but of who they really are. Most people are not malicious. They're masked. They protect their fears with charm. They bury their insecurities under jokes. They dress up wounds as ambition, confidence, or coldness. But if you slow down, listen deeper, and watch closely, you'll see the page turn. They'll reveal their attachment wounds through silence or oversharing. They'll show you their ego in how they handle no. They'll expose their fears in how they talk about others. Because people don't hide their truth, they display it in code. And the one who learns to decode stops being manipulated and starts living in reality. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." The same applies to people. Until you see what they're not saying, you will fall for what they show you. And when you do that, you're not connecting with them. You're connecting with their mask. To read people is not a trick. It's not manipulation. It's emotional intelligence. It's self-protection. And it's a quiet kind of power that can't be faked, because when you see clearly, you choose wisely. Share this video with someone who always ends up hurt because they believe the wrong version of someone. Comment below. I see the truth behind the mask. Let's see who's ready to stop being fooled and start seeing people for who they are. The journey continues in the next video, because the better you read others, the deeper you'll read yourself, and that changes everything.